So I can see from the names and our membership, we've got a good global spread of people here, which is wonderful. That's great to see. And I appreciate that for some of you, this time of day is perfectly sociable and reasonable. And for others of you, it could be very early in the morning, it could be late in the evening. And it might even be in the middle of the night. And if you're here with us and it is the middle of the night, it's an extra special thank you to you, because that's dedication above and beyond. So thank you very much, all of you, for joining from wherever you are and whatever time of day it is. My name's Anna Clark and I'm the chair of IACD currently. And I'm one of the board members of IACD as well. So we will get the chance to introduce you briefly to our other trustees as we go through the meeting. And as I said, you'll get the chance to introduce yourself to each other in the chat and then when we go into the breakout rooms. So just to confirm the agenda for today's meeting, you should all have received the agenda and a couple of other documents as well in advance. But we will introduce the trustees to you. We've got a little bit of business in terms of some trustees who are stepping down, new trustees that are joining. So we'll go through all of that. We have some awards to make too, which is always very nice. And I'm delighted that most of our award recipients are with us today. And then we'll move into the formalities of the actual annual general meeting. So we'll look at the minutes of last year's meeting and accept those, hopefully, and cover any matters arising. Principally highlight some of our key achievements over the last year, which you hopefully will have had the chance to have a look at in the annual report that was sent out with the notification, and also our annual accounts, which we will need to adopt for the year as well. Also want to introduce you briefly to our new strategy, and then we'll have some discussion in small breakout rooms around some of the key themes that feature in that. Be very keen to get your involvement and your thoughts and views around how you'd like to be involved. So that's the plan for the meeting. As I said, as you join, please do add your name, country, the region that you're from, and the organisation that you work with or your work role into the group chat. And if you do have any questions specifically relating to the items on the AGM agenda, we do have a trustee who's monitoring that as well. So we'll try and pick up on that too as we go through. So we have some apologies that I just want to note for the minutes and to let you know as well. Principally, the apologies that I'm going to highlight at this point in time are from some of our trustees, and they're from Tony Kimboya, Holly Scheib, Claire McGilvery, Michelle Dunscombe, Sissy Rock, Sonia Garcher, and a new trustee who's about to join us, Sinead Gormley as well. If you are aware of anyone who isn't able to be with us today and you'd like to note their apologies or they've asked you to, could you put that into the chat as well, please? Okay, so without any further ado, I'm going to do some screen sharing and just welcome everyone. And just very briefly say a couple of things about IACD. Many of you will be familiar with our organisation and its work. Let me see how I just pop this onto. Okay, many of you will be familiar with IACD and the work of the organisation, but I also appreciate there might be some newer members who've joined us. So I just want to highlight basically who we are and what we do very briefly. Now, this is very much hot off the press in terms of our new strategy. our vision and our mission, which haven't changed since our last strategy. So those of you that have been around for a while will recognise these. But IACD's vision is of a collective and globally connected community development practice, founded on and leading to community empowerment, equality, human rights and social justice, participative democracy and sustainable development. That's what we aim towards achieving, our long-term vision. Our mission or purpose is to promote values-based community development as a practice of empowerment and to facilitate the networking and the shared learning opportunities for our global membership. Principally, IACD is a network association of community development practitioners, and IACD's purpose is to create that collective space for networking and the sharing of learning and practice amongst our membership. We do work to a set of values, which are also the values that we promote for community development. And principally, these haven't changed either from our previous strategy, but there is a minor change, and I will highlight that as I go through. So we recognise that the discipline of community development is based on values-led practice, and the organisation and our trustees promote and work to the following values: participative democracy, which is working to ensure the active participation of people and communities in planning and decision-making on all matters that affect their lives. Sustainable development and climate justice, working to ensure fair, just and equitable social, economic and environmental development that's based on climate justice, respect for biodiversity, the protection of our natural environment and all life on Earth. Equality and human rights, promoting and respecting the equal worth, dignity and diversity of everyone, working to ensure equitable access to resources, services and opportunities, and ensuring that fundamental and internationally recognised human rights are respected, promoted and protected. And social and economic justice, promoting a just society through collective action that challenges injustice, poverty, inequality, discrimination and social exclusion through policies and procedures that lead to the fair and equitable distribution of resources, sustainable production and democratically controlled decision-making. And then community empowerment, working collectively with people in ways that value lived experience, building on existing strengths and support for the development of awareness, understanding, knowledge and skills, and contributing to greater participation, collective action, community resilience, solidarity and agency. And it's that final value that we have worked in our process of developing the new strategy to enhance. Previously, it was just empowerment, but we've strengthened that through the inclusion of the word community, which is what our work is all about, and adding the importance of community resilience, solidarity and agency, working alongside communities in order to support that development process that enables people to be the advocates of change for their communities. So those are the values that we work to collectively. These are our trustees who have served on the board in the last year since our last AGM. So there's quite a long list there. I'm not necessarily going to go through every single one of them because there are some key points that I want to highlight when we get to the next item on the agenda. But what I do want to just highlight is the fact that, again, for anybody who's maybe new to IACD, we have a board of trustees with 20 places, and we ensure that there is global representation amongst those 20 trustee places on the board. And we do that by ensuring and protecting at least one trustee place per global region, and capping the number of trustees at 5 for any one global region as well. So across this list, we have trustees who cover the majority of those global regions, except up until now, the Middle East and North Africa, and South and Central America. But I'm very pleased to say that that's about to change. I also want to just highlight our staff member, Jessica, who many of you will be involved working, communicating with on a regular basis. Jessica Sinclair, who's based in Scotland, joined us in 2022 and is our administrative officer with us today, hosting this meeting, and in many respects is the backbone of everything that we're able to do, because she's irreplaceable. So Jessica, thank you for everything that you do for us as well. And I'm sure we'll get some little emoji claps for that. Okay, so moving along then, what we want to do is highlight some of the changes that are taking place on our board, and just make everybody aware of that. And also the AGM is the point in the year under normal circumstances where these changes take place. You can serve on the board for a maximum of 9 years, and some trustees do, and obviously for other trustees circumstances change, and they might step down before the full 3 terms of office are up. So this year we are losing 4 trustees, which is always a sad time. So we're losing Claire McGilvery from Scotland, who has served since 2019 as our treasurer, and has done a wonderful job, and was also chair of the Dundee Global World Community Development Conference in the same year. I beg your pardon, Claire joined in 2017, not 2019, and is also a former recipient of the Global Ambassadors Award. Catherine Wanjohi from Kenya, who has served, I think, since the Dundee conference, which was, or maybe 2018. Catherine, if you're here, you'll put me right. And has also served as vice chair on the board as well. And we're sadly losing Catherine too. Colin Ross from Scotland, who's been on the board maybe I think since 2019, 2020, and has also been instrumental in supporting work around the development and the promotion of the international standards for community development. And Tony Kimbawa from Uganda, who has been on the board even since before then, before any of us here. I think Tony's possibly now our longest serving trustee, and his full term of office comes to an end. And Tony has been heavily involved in supporting IACD in relation to our engagement with the United Nations, which has been very much appreciated. So with the exception of Claire, who is already a Global Ambassador Award recipient, we would like to recognise the contributions of Catherine, Colin and Tony by awarding each of them a Global Ambassador Award this year. And you'll see on the screen there a little pewter dish, which since 2019 has been the form in which our awards are presented. It's now anybody from Scotland here can welcomely put me right if I get this wrong. Ceish, I believe it's called, and it's an ancient Celtic friendship cup and would have been used by the clans. So we will get the caches engraved for each of our award recipients, which will then be sent out in the post. But I would like to invite Colin and Catherine, if you're here, if you'd like to say a few words, it would be lovely to hear from you. And I'm just going to stop screen sharing so that we can actually see you on screen. Maybe Catherine, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Wonderful. Catherine, congratulations on your award.
Thank you.
This was I should have said for all our trustees, this was a collective decision on behalf of the trustees to make these awards, although the recipients weren't aware of that. for each other. But Catherine, you've served us very well, and your time has been very much appreciated. Would you like to say a few words?
Yes, thank you, Anna, our president, and thank you, everybody else. I have served since 2018, been a member a little longer than that, and I must say that serving as a director for Sub-Saharan Africa and also serving as the vice president then for 3 years and working with Anna as my president has been very rewarding, not just for me, but for people in Kenya and across Africa. So I want to thank IACD because as LifeBloom, which is my organization, celebrates 20 years this year, also comes this award that we continue serving the communities in the ways that we know best. And especially for me, the grassroots organizations where change happens. That's where I am at, that's where I belong. That's what I brought to IACD. That is what IACD has really helped me and Kenya and other partners develop. Thank you very much, Anna, and thank you very much, the trustees that I've worked with and the IACD as a whole.
Well, thank you, Catherine, and congratulations again. And congratulations also to LifeBloom Services for its 20th anniversary. Please pass on our congratulations. Colin, I know you're here. There you are.
Just taking the mute off. Thanks very much, Anna. I suppose I just really want to say, I suppose firstly, what a great honour. I suppose it's been privileged to be involved in ICD and the Board of Trustees. Never mind to be, given this award. I've really enjoyed being involved. I think I've learnt a lot. And I'd like to sort of thank, there's various people who I'd like to thank individually, but I think I'll do that separately. But just to thank everybody here for support and for just working together. Been a great experience. I think, none of you need me to tell you what there's. You look around the world, what's happening. There's an increasing need for what IACD does. It's amazing what a kind of small and under-resourced group of individuals can do and can contribute. Things are moving forward. There's a lot happening. The website's getting underway. Activity in the different regions, and active new trustees coming on. So I think that's plenty from me. Thanks again, and I'm standing down from the board, but I'm certainly hoping to keep in touch. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin, and for your very positive words, and as always, wise words. And I'd like to thank you and Catherine for your support, both personally and in terms of your contributions to our discussions and processes of decision making over the last number of years, and wish you all very, very the best for future directions and future plans. Now, unfortunately, as I have already indicated, we have apologies from Claire today, who really needs to be in about 3 places at once. It's all just kind of come together in the wrong way for Claire, but also for Tony, who's traveling back from Australia as we speak, and is in the air. But Tony has sent me a little message, which he would like me to read out on his behalf in acceptance of the Global Ambassador Award. So Tony says, it's been 9 years of service to the IACD board, mainly focusing on our work with the UN. As we continue to experience changes in multilateralism, one is able to observe the shrinking space of community development. I pledge to use the award as an opportunity to continue advocating for community development worldwide. Thanks to the cordial working relationships with you all, and I'll miss you, especially my colleague, Anastasia Crickley. So that's a little message from Tony, who concludes by saying, the struggle continues, which is very true. And somehow I don't think him stepping down will be the end of his relationship with Anastasia either. I'm sure that's going to continue in a very strong way. I'm very pleased to say that Tony is also going to be continuing as a member of the International Relations Committee as well. So we won't be losing him altogether. So that concludes the trustees who have unfortunately had to step down. But with all changes, there are always new things that happen as well and new opportunities. So I'd like to share with you our new trustees who are joining us. And I'm delighted to welcome, I think, all but one who was unable to join us today. And welcome Sarah, who I think I saw in the collective group there, who is a new trustee for the Southeast Asia region and is based in Malaysia and has been an active member for a few years. Orlando, who is from Ecuador and is joining us as a South and Central America's trustee, which is wonderful because that's a region where we haven't had a trustee for a few years. So Orlando, you're very welcome. And Sarah. Beata from the Lebanon, who is joining us as a Middle East and North Africa region trustee. Again, which is a region where we haven't had a trustee for a few years. So Beata, you're also very welcome. Thank you for your interest. And then we have 3 trustees who are joining us from Scotland. And this year, with losing Claire and Colin from Scotland, the board made a strategic decision to appoint 3 trustees from Scotland. Now, the main reasoning for that is that we are, although we're an international association, we're operationally based in Scotland. We have funding from the Scottish Government, which we hope will continue. And it's very important for us to have a strong base and presence in Scotland. And the best way to secure that is through having trustee representation. So we're delighted to welcome Dawn Brown, who's joining us and who I did see on screen. Jean, who's joined us on screen as well today. I should say Dawn is based in, works for the Scottish Community Development Centre based in Glasgow, but national organisation. Jean works in Dundee University, teaching community development and community learning. And Sinead Gormley, who works in Glasgow University teaching community development, but unfortunately isn't able to be with us in person today. So I'd like to welcome all 6 of our new trustees on board, and your appointment effectively takes effect from now. So welcome everybody. And I'm sure you'll all like to join me in that welcome. If you would like to find out more about any of our trustees, there are bios for everybody on the website, apart from our new trustees, but we'll be putting those up in the next few days. Okay, so now it's time to move on to a couple of other awards that we want to make. And these awards are 2 Lifetime Achievement Awards that we have discussed and agreed as a board of trustees. And the recipients for the Lifetime Achievement Awards this year are Professor Ron Hustedy from USA and Professor Gary Craig from England. And we're absolutely delighted to be making both of these awards. It's an honour to make the awards. And in many respects, they're probably a while coming. but it's something that we recognised was really important, and we wanted to rectify this year. So both of our award recipients for the Lifetime Achievement Awards have, sorry, I've lost my earpiece. There we go. Long-standing and illustrious histories, professional careers supporting and promoting community development, both within their own professions and their own institutions, and nationally and internationally as well. I am not going to go into all the fine detail for both our award recipients, but I'll just highlight a couple of things and essentially why we feel these awards are well deserved. For Ron, as I said, Emeritus Professor, the University of Kentucky, has taught for decades on community development and leadership, and also been involved in significant areas of research, public policy development. Contributions to community development. Ron has been a board member of the Community Development Society in the USA, has served as a board member and as a chair over a number of years. Ron has also served previously on the board of IACD and been involved for a number of years on various committees and working groups, and contributed to publications, articles for Practice Insights, and also attended global conferences and run workshops at those, and very honoured to have been able to join some of those. So highly respected in his field, and has given many, many years of service to community development. And I will invite Ron to say a few words in a minute. Just want to come to Gary. Gary also started out, I believe, working in the National Community Development Programme many, many years ago in England. Also has served on the board of IACD, was the first president of IACD following the organisation's move to Scotland, and that was 25 years ago. Is a lifetime member, has been very active and very supportive of IACD and its work over the years, and much that support has been very much appreciated. Gary has also been editor of the Community Development Journal for a number of years, from 1983 to 1997, worked internationally at many universities, but also as a researcher, consultant, and public policy advisor as well, but with roots very much in community activism and community organising. And as I said, a former president of IACD as well, and instrumental in restructuring IACD following its move to Scotland. So hugely influential, both in their own rights, but also influential in terms of their contributions to community development globally. So it's an absolute honour to be able to, on behalf of the trustees, award both of you IACD Lifetime Achievement Awards. And I'm going to stop screen sharing now again and invite perhaps Ron first, if you'd like to say a few words, and then we'll come to Gary.
Thank you so much, Anna, for this recognition. It's been a delight to be associated with IACD over the years. I vividly recall the meeting in Scotland in 1998 when the IACD was revived. It was, the energy was just visceral in the room. A couple of things I just also want to mention. I think there are a lot of bright lights in community development, and one is the emergence of degree programs and certificates in the field that are emerging. Back in 1990, there were only 2 community development degree programs in the United States, and I think 2 in Canada. At this point, there are almost 100 in the US and 30 in Canada. So the field is growing, and we need to, I think, continue to build on that and bring those degree programs together. In some ways, I feel we're bright lights, but we're also fragmented in our constellation. And so that's a challenge I'd like to throw out. And then I really appreciate the connection with IACD and the Community Development Society in North America. We forged an alliance in the year 2001, and we promote each other's conferences and webinars in our publications. But there's more work to be done. I just met somebody from the Japanese Community Development Society. They're rooted in social welfare, but I think want to be connected. So that is a great place. And also what I appreciate about IACD is learning from I think the Sub-Saharan Africa and other places that we have so much to learn from in the industrialized West. So and the values I think that bring us together are powerful. So thank you very much for this recognition, and look forward to continuing with IACD.
Thank you very much, Ron. And we look forward to that continuation as well.
Thank you.
Gary, oh, there you are, top corner of the screen. Gary, would you like to join us and say a few words?
Yes, I would. Thank you very much. I was wondering what I could say which might be of interest. I think it's worth saying that I didn't emerge from my mother's womb fully formed as a community development worker. My first degree was in mathematics, and for much of my life, colleagues have been rather quizzical as how I could move from potentially doing a PhD on the structure of the stars, with my supervisor being a person who eventually became Margaret Thatcher's chief scientific advisor. So that was a very close shave. Instead of that, I chose to go to Ghana for 2 years to work, and that was an immensely important experience. I learned what it was like to be a member of a very small white minority in an overwhelmingly black and black governed country. And I also learned about the evils of imperialism, slavery, and exploitation. One of the maxims, I want to give you a few little maxims as I go along, but one of the maxims that has always been a guide for me is from Albert Einstein, no less. I suppose it's the mathematical connection, but he said the important thing is to keep questioning. And I think through my life, in all sorts of situations, that's what I've done. I worked for a while in various kinds of voluntary service schemes, helping older and disabled people, and began to ask the question is why it was good enough for such people to have what were effectively second-rate services, which is not to decry the work that was being done in the voluntary sector. But they should have been well-funded and well-organized services provided by the state as a matter of right. When I worked for the National Community Development Project, which Anna mentioned, our job was allegedly to deal with poverty in the inner city, in many of the larger cities within Britain. And again, I was forced to ask why there was poverty, what were the causes? And it seemed to me and a number of my colleagues that the main cause of poverty were actually the workings of a capitalist economy, which meant that some people got very rich and some people got very poor. And that situation has not improved. over the last 20 years. And I tried to pursue the values of community development in all kinds of contexts. For example, I worked for the Law Centres Federation, where we developed forms of class action. So we didn't tie ourselves down doing hundreds of similar cases, but took similar cases in one bundle, for example, over poor housing conditions or access to certain kinds of important human rights. What has become most important, I suppose, the organizing principle has been around the concept of social justice. And I was fortunate enough to be appointed as the world's first professor of social justice back in 2000, and had to think quite hard. And I've written a lot about the values of social justice and what they mean and how they can play out in a number of different contexts. And obviously they are core to the practice of community development. Questions of equality, of human rights, of voice, giving people a voice or helping people to achieve a voice, and of something that's become most important to me, of anti-racist practice. And indeed, much of the work that I'm doing now as a volunteer in my own city in York is organized partly around anti-racist work and partly around the phenomenon of modern slavery, which in its core is a form of racism. It's exploitation of people for the sake of financial gain. So I'm immensely encouraged to see how well the IACD has come on when I, in conjunction with a number of people, some of whom are still involved with IACD, became involved in 1990s. It was an organization which was a shell. It had no money. It had a number of officers who I'm afraid to say were essentially corrupt. Just to take one example, I don't know now how the IACD decides where it's going to have its annual conferences. But I'm sure there's a rationale to it, and I'm sure it's linked to the needs and aspirations of groups in those particular countries. When I first joined IACD, it seemed to me that the means of determining where the conference was going to be was that the secretary would decide where he wanted to have a holiday, and a paid holiday at that, and that's what happened. That's where the conferences were held. We rumbled that. A number of us managed to relaunch the IACD, and Ron has alluded to that famous meeting in Edinburgh, where, to my amusement and slight apprehension, I was made first president, and over the next years, with the support of a lot of people, we managed to turn the organization around, and it's now in what looks to me like a very much better place. Of course, there's a huge amount yet to do, but in terms of the width of membership, the kinds of ideas that are going forward, the remaining adherence to the values of social justice, it's very much where I would like to see it, and I hope that it grows over the next years and develops into an even more effective voice for community development, which in turn leads to providing a voice for many of those living in deprived communities across the world of whatever kind. I just wanted to end with a few little quotes that I've picked up along my journey, which I think may be of interest, and certainly I think provided me with some important organizing principles. First one of these is, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything, which is really the question of saying, know what you believe in and pursue it vigorously. I've talked about Einstein. The one that also stuck in my mind from Günter Grass, which is very relevant to community development, is that the citizen's first duty is not to keep quiet. Now, I know for some of you here today, not keeping quiet runs greater risks than it does in other places. But we have to continue to speak up against poverty, against inequality, against racism, and even more concerning at the moment, the growth of fascism across the world. The ultimate nature, the ultimate measure of a human is not how he or she responds in situations of comfort and security, but in situations of conflict and challenge. To be truly radical is to make hope possible rather than despair convincing. Integrity is doing the right thing when no one is looking. And finally, and this is where I am at the present time in a significant part of my life, the main purpose of life is to plant trees under whose shade I do not expect to sit. And that's something about what you leave as a legacy for the people who follow you, for our children, the next generation, the world to come. We have to leave a legacy which is worth having. So thank you very much for this honor. I'm deeply moved by it. The only request I've had is, can I, if I'm to receive one of these lovely little bowls, can I choose which whiskey you put in it before you send it to me? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary, and thank you, Ron, as well, both of you. Very wise words and very, very genuine and very important words. And actually, what I liked about both of your contributions there was, Ron, you started out very much with a you know, the positivity around the growth of community development education over the years, and that can only stand us in good stead. But the importance of ensuring that there is that connectivity across those engaged in that learning process and moving into community development as a field of practice, which is very much a core part of IACD's purpose. But there's more work to do in terms of that fostering that connectivity. And Gary, as always, extremely thought-provoking words of wisdom from you, and insights, and actually some really important connections with what our new strategy is aiming to focus on. Excuse me. And you'll see when we get to that point, everybody hopefully will see just how critical the themes that Gary has been talking about are for our societies and communities around the world, and for community development as a field of practice and as a discipline. And hopefully that Gary's contribution there particularly can help to set up the small group discussions in the second part of the meeting. But I'd also just like to acknowledge the work that trustees over the years have done, you know, present, yes, but also past trustees, particularly since that move to Scotland, restructuring the organisation. Last year, we acknowledged IACD's 25 years being based in Scotland, a period of you know, stability, growth, development, and that continues and will continue. But it's only as strong as the people who are involved in the process, and that is the contribution of trustees, because essentially, as has been pointed out by Colin, a very small, under-resourced organisation with a lot of aspiration. And I suppose if I was to kind of add anything finally into that mix, on coming in behind both of our award recipients there, I would add there is absolutely no place for complacency in the issues and the challenges that we face in front of us. But there is also every need for realism from an organisational point of view about what we can do, and that we absolutely need to prioritise on the really important issues that we face. So we will endeavour to get those cases out to all of you. If you have any special requests in terms of liquids to go along with them, you can let us know privately. And it's just unfortunate that we can't present them in person. Sorry, but we'll have a toast anyway. So to all our award recipients, thank you so much for your contributions, and please don't be strangers. We look forward to continuing that working relationship moving forward. And that brings us, everybody, then to the business of the AGM, which you might have expected that we would have gotten to a little bit before now, but it's always nice to start with some of the nice elements first, and then get into the business. So I'm going to go back to screen sharing, and we'll pick up on the items more formally associated with our AGM. So I'm not going to go into full screen sharing mode because I can't see anybody want to do that, but I am just going to do that. Okay, so the first point that we need to cover is the minutes of last year's AGM 2023, which was in July. These were circulated with the notification and the agenda for today's meeting. So I would like to invite you, hopefully you've had the chance to read them. I'm not proposing to go through them. I would like to invite you to propose and second, if you're happy to do so, and if there are any matters arising that are not on today's agenda, we'll come to those, or if there's anything that was factually incorrect recorded, if you could let us know. But other than that, could we have a proposer for last year's minutes, please? Colin, I can see your hand, thank you. And I heard Anastasia in the background. Are you happy to second, Anastasia?
Yes, I am indeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we accept those then as an accurate record? Okay, thank you. Any matters arising from those minutes that aren't on today's agenda? The agendas and the minutes of AGMs are generally fairly standard, so I'll take that as no matters arising. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. That's very much appreciated. So we'll just move on then quickly to a brief summary of our work over the last year. Now, you will have received a copy of the annual report and the summary of the accounts as well. So those are with you, and hopefully you've had the chance to have a look at that. You will notice our new branding, which we're slowly getting to grips with using in a variety of different ways. So what I wanted to do very briefly was just highlight not everything that's in the annual report, but just a touch of some of the highlights. And I'll just see if I can make that a little bit bigger. Okay, is that better to see? So our previous strategy had 5 strategic priorities in it. The priority 5 was all associated with governance of the organisation, which we have to do and is really important, the underpinning foundation. But the work of the organisation was covered in the first 4 priority areas. And I should say that the majority of the work of IACD flows through a number of committees. And if you're not familiar with how IACD works, we have an executive committee, which is the office bearers and the chairs of the other 3 committees. And those other 3 committees are professional development and publications, membership, communications and marketing, and international relations. So all the work of the organisation flows through those committees. Just some of the highlights from priority 1, which was a focus on advocating for the discipline and values of community development. We had facilitated a number of global community development educator forums and introduced new global community development researcher forums as well. And those will continue in our new strategy. We have continued to promote and disseminate the international standards for community development. We published 2 new translations in Portuguese and I think it was Portuguese and Dutch, and also set up a working group to actually look at how we wanted to continue to take that work around the standards forward. And you'll see much of that reflected in the new strategy as well. We published 2 editions of Practice Insights through the year, and that will continue in the new strategy too, and contributed to a variety of publications, pieces of research, policy analysis, and so on. And also in that financial year, produced a book on, which actually isn't in the image here. That's the previous book that we published previously. But we also published a book through Springer Publishers, which Daniel Muya, one of our trustees for Sub-Saharan Africa, and Rhonda Phillips were the editors of, incorporating a set of papers from the World Community Development Conference virtually from Nairobi. So that's some highlights from priority 1. Strategic priority 2, absolutely wonderful opportunity in 2023 to get back to face-to-face global conferences. And it felt like a long time coming, but it was wonderful to be able to do it for our 70th anniversary from when the organisation, established. And we had the 3-day World Community Development Conference in Darwin, Australia, and a big shout out and appreciation to Michelle Dunscombe, trustee and vice chair, who chaired that conference and chaired the organising of it. Dee Brooks from Yeda Institute, who was also a trustee on the board of IACD as well, and a number of partner organisations who made all of that happen. It was a wonderful conference and just absolutely fantastic. And there will be a Practice Insights edition bringing together a series of the presentations and papers arising from that conference coming out in the coming year as well. And then promoting regional community development conferences and contributing to those in a variety of different ways. And as has been noted, we also marked our IACD's 25th anniversary of being based in Scotland with a reception of the Scottish Government. And that was a great opportunity as well to connect and network with the members in Scotland. Practice exchange opportunities, again, facilitated on the back of the Darwin Conference, series of 1-day ones and a 3-day practice exchange in Kakadu National Park in the Northern Territories, which was wonderful. And you'll see an awful lot of the imagery from the conference and from the practice exchanges featuring in our new materials moving forward. And then continuing to develop our membership services in a variety of different ways. And Jessica is instrumental in this with our regular e-bulletins coming out a couple of times a month. We've been developing an awful lot of work around the new website as well, which we'll tell you a little bit more about in a minute. And we're also going to be working on promoting a members section for the website too. Priority 3, very much around engaging with country networks and organisations promoting community development, networking people together, practitioners and others. And through the year, we held 18 online regional forums, meetings, webinars, a variety of different themes for those. Some of those were regional, for regional members, and some of them were international. And we've, across all of those, nearly 1,000 registrations from our membership. So we're very much looking forward to continuing in that vein in our new strategy as well. And there's a flavour there of some of the activities that themes that those focused around. And then priority 4, which as we kind of neared the end of that strategy, elements of it became quite dated in some respects. Although when we started out in that strategy, they were absolutely at the forefront of everybody's minds and experiences. But priority 4 for us in the last year really focused primarily on our engagement with the UN. And we had 4 trustees who took part in the 3-day UN Forum on Minority Issues in Geneva, which was very, very informative. And again, through the International Committee, that's an area of work that we will continue to focus on and be focused around in terms of our engagement as well. And also some plans to do some webinars around community engagement in the UN too. Now, what I do want to do is just bring you back to our new website. It has been a long time coming, but I'm absolutely thrilled. And I think Jessica is probably even more thrilled for us to be able to say that as of today, the new website is live. So if you want to Google www.iacdglobal.org, you will come to our new website and not the old one. It's a soft launch, and this is the first time it's been in the public arena. So there will be things that need to be tightened up, addressed. There'll probably be glitches. There's things that we still want to do, things that we still want to add. But it's at that point really where we want to share it with everybody, and the AGM is an absolutely wonderful opportunity to do that, and to get your feedback, constructive as well as any glitches or issues, and let us know not just what you think, but anything that you notice, that you feel, oh, there's a typo or whatever the case may be. And as I said, part of our plan is to create a members only area that you'd access from the website as well. That isn't open yet. We'll still be working on that over the next few months. But we will share that with everyone when that's available. And that will be an opportunity for members to be more kind of connected with each other on an ongoing basis. So I would like to thank trustees, particularly Colin and Holly, who've been involved in this process for developing the website. I'd like to highlight the designers, BAK, B-A-K, who've worked with us to develop the website and continue to support us with it. But I would particularly like to highlight Jessica's work. And she's become an expert in Nation Builder and a whole area of website development that certainly I think is new to her, definitely new to us, but she's really embraced that challenge, and that's been absolutely wonderful. So Jessica, again, thank you so much for all of your engagement with this process and willingness to learn.
Sure.
So we look forward to hearing your thoughts on the website, and please do take your time, have a good browse through it. And we're always interested in receiving content as well. Case studies, you'll see there's a section on member case studies. There's a template for that. So do engage with us and connect through social media as well. What I should also highlight, and Jessica made a point of reminding me about this, is that alongside the new website is an integrated new membership database. Now, you can't see that. It's a kind of a back-end thing, but what it means is that our membership management will all happen through this new database system that's linked to the website. And what you might notice, for example, is that there'll be a period of time where you might get a notification from the new website database management system, say to alert you to the fact that your membership is due for renewal, but you might also get it from the old system. So if you get duplicate communications in relation to membership matters, that's probably what that is about. That's just going to be a transition period for us. But please bear with us around that. But if there's anything that you're not sure about in relation to communications around your membership, just email us and we'll get into that and look into it for you. Okay, so thank you very much for that. And then I'm going to just come to our finances and accounts for the year. Again, these are detailed in the strategy, in the annual report. Our income and expenditure, so that's our summary overview. As I said, Claire, who is our treasurer, is not able to join us, although she sent me a message, oh, okay. Yeah, unfortunately, Claire can't join us, but she has done a little video to give an overview of the accounts. So I'm going to stop screen sharing and Jessica's going to share the video with you.
Hi everyone, I'm Claire McGillivray and I'm the IACD Treasurer, and I'm here for the last time to present.
Sorry, is that working now?
It is, yes, sorry.
Okay,
we're all going thumbs up here.
Oh, sorry about that. Apologies.
Accounts to the membership, as I'll be stepping down at the AGM. I want to share my screen so I can explore the accounts with you. These are the accounts from 2023-2024, and they've been approved by our accountants at 4M Accountants in Dundee, and they've already been passed by the board at our board meeting in June 2024. So they're here for your information today as members. Our income for 23-24 is quite significantly different, you'll see, from 2023. Most of our income usually comes from the Scottish Government grant, which we receive, and from our membership fees. And this year, although our membership fees were down a little on last year, we've also got income there of £18,000, which was surplus from the magnificent World Community Development Conference that was held in Darwin. So we have a little bit more in our income streams for 23-24 than we did in the previous year. You'll see also that our accounts are kept in pounds sterling, and that's because we're a Scottish charity and we're also bound by Scottish charity laws, and we're bound to also tell you about what's going on in your accounts. You'll see in terms of our income as well that the bank bank receipts are increased a little bit because of the higher interest rates that we had in the past year. Our expenditure is quite different as well from to 24 as well. You'll notice that usually our most expenditure is on our staff costs in terms of wages and national insurance and pension costs. But last year, we'd taken a decision that we knew that we would have additional expenditure. And so in addition to our main costs being staff costs, we also had costs here for travel. Now, we'd taken a decision that the previous chairs of the World Community Development Conferences hadn't been able to travel to the next Community Development Conference because of COVID. So those travel fees included costs for the chairs of the previous 3 conferences to travel to Darwin and for the chair of the organisation to travel to Darwin. You'll see the £20,000, 879 here, and you might be thinking, what's that for? Well, the majority of that was actually for the website design and the redesign of our logo. And then we also had costs in terms of legal fees, reviewing all of our policies and procedures in terms of employment law, and also carrying out a review of our admin assistant's role and remuneration. So those are what the legal and professional fees. So that means that our expenditure is up quite significantly from the previous year, but we knew that that was going to be happening. So what that means is it looks like we're making a loss of £19,000, but that was budgeted for, as I'd said, for last year. What does that mean for us in terms of the overall picture of the organisation? In 2023, we had £120,000 of cash in hand at the bank, and we're now down to 103,804. And as I say, that's because of the additional costs that we had this year. The total charity funds then for us going forward, which are unrestricted, and we're lucky in that respect that we can spend that money on whatever the trustees with delegated authority of the membership see fit. So we have still in 2024 at the close of play unrestricted funds of £100,000, and our usual operating costs, notwithstanding the additional expenses we've had this year, are £30,000. Usually organisations have about 6 months in reserve, so we're fortunate that we have quite healthy reserves. So that's me presented the accounts for 23-24. I hope you'll accept them as a membership. They've already been approved by the board, and I want to thank you for my time on IACD board. It's been a pleasure, and any questions, just fire away.
Okay, so that's an overview of the accounts. I did notice a couple of questions coming in there. Hopefully Claire's responses have explained why some figures are higher than others, and you know, the additional expenditure, for example, in relation to the website development and some of the other professional fees. I noticed right at the very end, she said, if you have any questions, fire away. And she's not here to answer them. But we'll do the best we can. But obviously, as Claire pointed out, the accounts have all been externally audited by our accountants, presented to the Board of Trustees and approved by the Board of Trustees. So we're sort of presenting them to you alongside the report of our work over the year, and would like to invite a proposer and a seconder to adopt those. And if there are any other specific questions, you know, very happy to kind of come back to those following that. I can see Janine and Catherine, both of your hands up. Janine?
Thank you. I just wanted to highlight one question from John, was a question around our membership numbers. I don't know if Jessica can tell us offhand how many members we have.
Currently about 560.
Okay, thanks. Does that answer your question, John?
Yeah, well, it does answer the first one, but the second one, I mean, I don't know if we've lost members in the last year or how is. Anyway, that would be a good thing to probably see in annual reports, the number of members, how's that changed? maybe even
yeah.
a breakdown by regions. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was just
Thanks.
maybe looking at that figure a bit closely because I saw the income from membership had gone down by a couple of thousand.
Yeah. Thanks,
Yeah.
John.
Thank you. That's great. Thanks, Janine. Just to kind of pick up on the point there around the membership fluctuations. Yeah, I mean, actually, the membership tends to be relatively stable. It has gone down slightly, but what we've noticed in the last couple of years is that we've had quite a high increase in the number of student membership. And those student members have free membership. But often when their student membership concludes, they're not renewing. So, you know, our increase goes up quite a bit at certain times with student coming on board, but they don't renew at the point of becoming fee-paying members. Well, say some do, but quite a lot don't. But that is a whole strategic area that is featuring in our new strategy for us to look at in a lot of detail, and the Membership and Communications Committee are on the case with all of that, not just in relation to student membership, but our membership generally as well. So we'll be bringing forward a range of actions to work around that. Catherine, you had your hand up as well.
Janine has picked it up, so I'm good.
Okay. Okay. All right. So I can't see any other hands up. So could we have a proposer and a seconder for the adoption of the annual report and accounts? Catherine, is that your hand up for that? Great. And Janine, I think I saw your hand up. Okay, wonderful. So we have a proposer and a seconder for that. I'll take that as approved. Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, everyone. So hopefully we're nearing the end of kind of inputs and hurtling towards the opportunity for small breakout discussion groups. All that's really left in our input is to just tell you a little bit about our new strategy, which we are also launching today. And sorry, you will receive a copy of after the AGM. And as many of you will know, this is a strategy and the development of which has taken probably at least a year, if not longer. We started launching the engagement process for the development of the new strategy at last year's AGM. We have had a significant membership survey undertaken, and thank you all for your contributions to that. We've had regional discussions and we've had a number of trustee discussions as well. And on the strength of all of that, we have developed a new 5-year strategy, which is high level in terms of strategic priorities and a set of indicative actions. And I'm not going to go into all the fine detail in it because you'll receive it and hopefully have the chance to kind of engage with it yourselves. And we'll now be focusing on the implementation of this strategy and producing our 1-year plans that enable us to do that. But what I did want to do was perhaps just to highlight a couple of key things. The new strategy has fewer strategic priorities. All our work is focused around 3 main areas. One is advocate for the discipline, values and methods of community development, championing community participation, empowerment, solidarity and agency. So you will notice, again, that's similar to our first previous one, but strengthened in relation to the solidarity and agency, and that then features in terms of indicative actions. And second one is to support and engage with members and the field to promote networking, practice exchange, professional development and collaboration, which speaks to our core purpose. Both of those priorities speak directly to IACD's core purpose. And the third one is around our long-term sustainability and good governance practices. But what our new strategy has, I think I've just seemed to have cut the bottom off this. There we go. Alongside a set of indicative actions, which include things like produce editions of practice insights, facilitate webinars, seminars, conferences, so on and so forth, we have a series of cross-cutting themes, and these themes are the result of the engagement with our membership. These are the issues and themes that our members were saying were critical, fundamental issues for them as practitioners, for you as practitioners, and for the practice and discipline of community development. So rather than simply just talking about outputs around, publications, meetings, conferences, we felt it was really important to actually specify the key themes that our work needs to and will focus on over the next 5 years. So those cross-cutting themes are articulating the discipline of community development in policy and practice, addressing poverty, marginalisation and exclusion, promoting social justice, including diversity, equity and inclusion, advocating for climate justice, challenging neoliberalism and the legacy of colonialism, promoting human rights, recognising and supporting agency and voice, self-determining direction, and not given agendas. And the final key theme there around agency and voice also speaks very clearly to very fundamental discussions that took place in a number of instances with members in meetings and also among the Board of Trustees, where we felt that this was absolutely key to our work and we needed to be explicit about that. Very focused around promoting space and opportunity for marginalised and minority communities to be heard and be seen in IACD's work and be reflected in that their voices are reflected in that alongside trustees or whoever else. So we have some indicative actions that we'll be bringing forward in the new strategy around exploring exactly how we do that. But we'd also very much like to hear from you about what you feel are important in relation to these key themes and the actions that you feel are able to contribute to addressing these, and how you feel you could contribute to IACD collectively as we try to work through these themes together. So the strategy has been approved by the board in June. As I said, everybody will receive a copy of it, hopefully tomorrow, if not the beginning of next week. And we have a 1-year plan that we're working to. But we have a range of actions that we would really very much like to encourage our members to be involved with us. And how we do that is something particularly around ensuring the inclusion of minority voices is something we'd like to hear from you around. So with that in mind, we'd like to invite you now to join a small breakout room discussion to think about these cross-cutting themes and to consider how these issues and themes impact on the communities that you work with, but also how can we work collectively together as a membership organisation to support community development workers and communities to address these issues. So Jessica's going to break us up into a number of small groups, and we'll give this discussion maybe about 20 minutes. So please make sure that everybody gets the chance to speak in your group and that you come back with 1 or 2 key ideas that you can share with everybody in a plenary. So is that everybody back, all the groups now, Jessica? Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's back.
Okay. Okay, so thank you to all of you for sticking with us to the end. It's been quite a while since we started off at well, nearly 2 hours ago. So we'll just kind of like get a little bit of feedback, not necessarily everything that you've talked about, but by all means feel free to try and capture some of the points in the chat if you would like to. We'll try and make some sense of all of that then in a bit of a write-up. But if you could just give us maybe one key thing that your discussion focused around, or a call to action, or you know, a reflection or observation of some kind, that would be great at this point. And then put more detail into the chat. I think we had some small groups as well, so apologies for that. We worked on the basis of the full number staying for the discussion groups, but obviously people had other meetings to go to. Anyway, I'm just going to sort of pinpoint a few faces and see if I manage to get all the groups represented. So who shall I kick off with? Jaya, you might not have been the nominated person, but
no, we didn't actually pick anyone to nominate.
okay.
I guess the general theme was that we're concerned that community development isn't really being embedded into policies and practices, and that while the rhetoric might be there, it's certainly not practiced, and concerned about the top-down approach in the countries that we were coming from.
Okay.
I mean, others can add, please, from my group. Yeah.
Okay, thanks very much, Jaya. And I think that probably speaks quite clearly to our first strategic priority, really. So that's really helpful. In terms of the group that Jaya was in then, is there anybody else wants to sort of throw in anything else around your discussion, or maybe move on? But feel free, as I said, to sort of embellish and add to the points that you're making in the chat. Okay, I'll maybe jump to somebody else then, see if it's a different group. Mario, you're very welcome. Thanks for joining. What group were you in? And
Hi, hello.
hi.
I was with Kevin and Michael and Auda, but Auda had some issues also in the connection, I guess. I think he's not here at the moment as well. And Kevin had to leave, and Michael is still around, as far as I know. I cannot find him, but I think so.
Yeah,
Are
he
you?
is still here. Yeah.
Yeah. Michael Guan. Yeah.
I think you're being nominated, Michael.
I don't,
Is he?
maybe he's gone. But one interesting thing, we're talking like Michael and Kevin both live in Ireland. So Kevin in St. Martin and Michael in the Philippines. And we were discussing a bit some features about community development issues in these kind of territories. And then also Uda from Nigeria was sharing some of the difficulties about how people, he and Kevin actually were very much into this issue of how to put people that are the actors of community development, so the people in the communities, how to put them in the decision taking place, in the place of taking decision, because many of the programs they run are government-run programs or financed programs. So this is very much an old issue that we always go back to it, and is how can the people have their own space in the participation in this kind of processes. So we did not have so much time, and also due to some trouble in the connection. But it was interesting, and we shared our emails as well. So we are willing to deep our relationship and contacts a little bit more. So, and Kevin wanted to visit Portugal, so already opened some doors for him. And all of you are welcome, of course.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Okay. And let me see then, anybody else? Chan, what about the group that you were in?
I was in the group 3. So Jaya just talk about
with Jaya.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. No worries. Nice to see you again. David, were you in one of the groups that's already fed back? Or a different one?
You mean this one?
I do mean that one, yes. Lovely to see you.
Yes, you too, Anna. Thank you, and fascinating experience. I was frustrated by internet connections, but it was great to find myself in the minority of a group of I think 5 or 6 other people from various parts of Africa. And I think Oscar and David were extremely articulate in raising an issue about the risk of an abstract strategy that needs domesticating at a very local level, whilst still recognizing that our immediate agendas are difficult then to have an ear or to agenda somewhere else. There's a connection in there, and we need to recognize what it is. But how can we, rather than dedicating time and resources that we might not have to something from elsewhere, how can we feed our experiences back into that so others can use it in a more strategic way? It's a lot of waffle. I don't know if there's other people in my group that might be able to say something clearer than that.
Okay,
I think it was good. You're right, David. A good report. I think we all thought it's a plausible thing to have, but in the end, it's the global strategic plan or ideas that brings us all together. We have to localize it, bring it back to basics, to where we are with our projects, and feed that back. And that is the idea that we thought of, that we should feed back with regular meetings on these issues on a local level also.
Okay, thank you. So there's a flow there from one to the other. What I should say is that what I presented on the screen in relation to the new strategy really was just the priorities and the key themes, but there is some more detail in it, and so when you get that, you'll be able to sort of see some more sort of tangible outputs that are being suggested. But I think that's an important contribution there as well. I'm not sure how many more groups we have to go. So would somebody from one of the other groups, Janine? Yeah, great, thanks.
I was with Ronald and Colin and Fatima and Hopeson. So we had a good discussion. And I think generally what we were saying is linked to what Mario was saying as well, is that we must constantly be aware of the smugness of feeling like we are the development experts. We know what's going on. There's this real need for bridge building, finding common ground, bringing in that idea of the agency and the voice for the voiceless is having ways of listening, connecting with people in communities so that we do get the voice from the ground and we do get inclusion of people from all levels, so that it doesn't become sort of an academic exercise or the experts are there to tell people what they need, because that's we've seen how that doesn't work. And so approaches like the asset-based community development is what's needed, and just listening, storytelling, connecting with people, taking time to just learn from other people's life experiences. So that also links in with our strategy about agency and giving a voice.
Okay, thank you, Janine. I'm conscious of time now, so I can see Anastasia and Kira have a hand raised. Would you like to come in?
Yes, we just want to say very briefly, first of all, we've got to leave now because we have another meeting that we have to travel to. Secondly, we heard someone speak about 2 people from Ireland whom we don't know and we very much like to get to know, and we couldn't hear the names, So we'd like to know who they are, and we'd like to get in touch with them. So perhaps you could encourage them to do so. Thirdly, can I just say, David, in response to yourself, a couple of the things that strike me is that in fact the global analysis and the local practice have now collided very directly in most countries. And in fact, a number of the issues that we're talking about that you listed, Anna, as cross-cutting themes have collided very directly. For example, the issue of long-standing poverty and people experiencing poverty intergenerationally, communities that are poor intergenerationally, and then new migrants, new groups coming in, groups feeling, and then both groups being alienated from one another. And it seems to me it's really important that we don't absolve ourselves of responsibility as community workers and as persons concerned with community work and community development, that we have a responsibility also to work on those sets of relations and to try to ensure that collective progress can be made in what are very difficult circumstances. Secondly, from our point of view here, it's totally right that governments are against people having a say. But in our experience, for example, right where I'm sitting here now, in work with travellers, we have succeeded in creating conditions where travellers and Roma have had a very direct say about the National Traveller Inclusion Strategy, and have had a very direct say about the health strategy, and a very direct say about the education strategy that's just been published. The big problem we find is tokenism in state consultation, you know, and there's no problem about listening, provided you don't actually include in the implementation phase what needs to be included. So that's our big struggle at this point in time. And I think with that, unfortunately, we're going to have to go, except to say that any or all of you are very welcome here, and we're very happy to communicate and work directly with you in any way that we can, as well as working through and with IACD.
That's great. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, everybody. And thank you, Anna, and well done to all of you.
Yes. Thank you.
Take care. Have a good day. See you soon. Okay. Anybody left from any of the groups that we haven't heard from? And then we'll wrap up the meeting.
My group has largely been represented.
Okay.
Dwight and David made a very good case of what we agreed as a group. And I'm happy that it has been underscored by our very own leader up there. So I think we are good. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Oscar. Much appreciated.
Yes, madam, not concerning about the question that we have been discussing, but I have a question now. Before the meeting, I was asking, I'm a student at Kisii University. Now at middle May, I have to go for an internship. Will you please connect me to how can I get that opportunity and the opportunity for volunteers? Thank you.
Okay, if you would like to maybe get in touch with Jessica by email, we'll try and follow up with that. Sorry, who was that? Somebody else was speaking then?
In Kenya. I'm
in Kenya.
He's in Kenya. I'm also in Kenya. I think I could get in touch.
Okay,
I'm in Kenya.
Okay, I'll look for you.
We're not a minority, yeah?
Why don't you exchange contact details then in the chat, and you can follow up with each other. Okay.
Thank you.
And by all means, send us an email, Hyacinth, and if there's any way in which we can put you in touch with other members in the Kenya region, we'll do that. Jim, hello.
Just to mention, we spent a little bit of time. I was raising the issue that as to whether the strategies are sharp enough and clear enough about saying the kind of economies that we would like to see. In some senses, Janine knows and Daniel knows that we already had a seminar from the UK to South Africa looking at the work of Claire's community local economic strategies, you know, and what does community wealth building actually mean, and as to whether we're good enough at critically reflecting on those that have resources, rather than just focusing on those who don't have resources. And in some ways, it's less than evident for me, maybe it's just a bias, and I apologize for that, that I didn't see a sharp enough focus on looking at the kind of economies that we have, and how we might focus on these. And I say one of the kind of values, for example, of Claire's organization is a belief in what they call the plural ownership of the economy. Does IACD believe in the plural ownership of the economy? And is that kind of clear in relation to how we understand the values that we have? So it's quite a challenging topic. But certainly if you live in the northeast of England and work there in community development, then we're actually faced with quite substantial inequalities in relation to poverty and the gap between the rich and the poor. And the other concerning factor of part of this world here, life expectancy is actually going down statistically. And that's quite a big challenge for those of us a bit older, who just didn't believe we're in a society where life expectancy is going down rather than increasing. Few challenges there. And it's just to make sure the values actually contain that kind of level of critical reflection.
Okay, thank you for that observation. And to answer your question, does IACD believe in a plural ownership of economies? It's not a specific discussion I think we've had, but I look forward to the opportunity to do so. And I was sorry that I missed the Claire's seminar as well. But I think the work that they're involved in is very interesting and something to sort of circle back at and look at as we move forward with the new strategy. And I would say again as well that when you get the strategy document, hopefully you'll see there is more detail in it. I just really skimmed 2 very tiny elements, but I'm very happy to sort of receive your feedback or reflections on it as well. And as we move forward, we have a plan for this year, which is almost like a transition year from the old strategy into the new one. But as we move forward, those themes, actions, your thoughts, your ideas, observations from this discussion, and particularly ways to strengthen that connection between communities at a local level and those that are organising within them, and what's happening at, say nationally or regionally. We don't organise nationally and regionally, but we link with organisations that do, and then how that connects with what's appropriate and realistic for us as an organisation to engage with, and what that might look like, albeit still through a lens of realism in terms of what we can meaningfully achieve. Are ongoing discussions that we need to continue to have. But I think the time has probably come after 2.25 hours to bring the meeting to a close. I'd like to thank all of you very much for staying with us and for being with us as members, staying with us today for the AGM. Fully appreciative of the fact that for some of you, it's probably quite late on in the day now. So thank you very much indeed, particularly to our outgoing trustees, Catherine and Colin, who are still with us, and to Ron, award recipient. I think we've lost Gary somewhere along the line, but thank you also for staying with us, and to all of you, and hope very much to see you all again in the very near future.